Alright, what's up, everybody? Back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys are having a good one. Today, another episode of the Look In series. This one is on the Boston Celtics after they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Miami Heat in 7 games. A lot to talk about with this team. If you missed any of the other Look In episodes, there'll be a playlist linked at the end of the video where I did this by every single team except for Denver and Miami because they're still playing. And yeah, thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. Really appreciate it. If you like the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, do all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. They have said a lot. Looking at the analytics, about a little bit less than 1% of you are actually subscribed. So yeah, hit the subscribe. I'd really appreciate it a lot. Let's not waste any more of your time because we got a lot to talk about with this Celtics team. Let's get right into it. So the Celtics this season, they finished 57-25 after last year being 2 wins away from being NBA champions. They come into this season, the offseason, they make a big trade for Malcolm Brogdon where they basically give up nothing. That was a big move for him, or for them, obviously, because you know what happened during this season. They also made a signing of Danilo Gallinari, but he did not play this season. Tore his ACL before the season playing overseas, so he did not play. But I mean, still, they have a pretty good team. Then they have the whole Ime Udoka situation happen before the season start, and he was suspended and then ultimately let go by the team. And they bring in 35-year-old or 34-year-old Joe Mazzulla in, and he all of a sudden becomes the head coach right like maybe a month and a half before the season starts. Very unexpected twist, but the Celtics come in and they look really, really good. They were the best team in the NBA for most of the first half of the season. Their three-point shot was really fun. They had historic offensive numbers, shooting and offensive rating, stuff like that. They were amazing. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both made all-star team again. Guys like Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Derek White, Grant Williams, they're all contributing, making great plays, hitting shots. Defensively, they're amazing as well. And Joe Mazzulla was awarded with a contract extension at the All-Star break because he became, I think he coach team, the East team? I think he might have. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he did get a contract extension. Go the second half of the year and they kind of fall a little bit, but they still finished second in the East and second in the NBA with 57 wins. Look at their numbers. They were a top 5 team in a lot of categories, and they look really good. And this team was honestly one of the favorites to win the championship, especially if coming off being in the finals last year and losing in the finals. A lot of people thought this year, especially with the Michael Brogdon addition, all their players like Tatum, Brown getting 1 year better and getting to know the offense a lot more, that this was going to be a team to be reckoned with, in the Eastern Conference this season. But it was going to be really fun. We go to the playoffs, and that's where a lot of things started to happen for this team. We go to the first round. They beat the Hawks in 6, but you could definitely tell that this wasn't the same kind of Celtic team that we thought we were going to see. There's a lot of times where defensively they weren't really locked in. Their energy kind of came out kind of bland, turning the ball over a lot, not being able to close out games. All that kind of came up to them in the playoffs, and they kept the Atlanta Hawks around in 6 when they could have just got out there maybe in 4 or 5 and waited on the next one, because the Sixers, who they're going to play in the second round, swept their team, swept Brooklyn, and Boston had to play another extra 2 games. But we go to the second round against the Sixers. They lose game 1 on their home court without Joel Embiid. James Harden puts up 42 points. But then they come back, win game 2 and 3. They lose game 4 in overtime. And then they lose game 5 at home. And that was the big thing of like, whoa, okay, this Celtics team might not make it out of here. Losing game 5 at home, being down 3-2, going on the road to Philly. It was very tough. Very tough for Boston. Again, the turnovers are big. Just jacking up threes, not really making them. The energy level on both ends was not great. But somehow they win game 6 in Philly, a huge win, and they come out of game 7. Jason Tatum has 50, and they make it out. They make it back to the conference finals again. And we go to the conference finals. They play against the Miami Heat team that has significantly less talent than the Celtics, and everyone thought the Boston Celtics. ESPN gave the Boston Celtics a 97% chance to win this series. And they come out and they lose the first 3 games to an 8 seed Miami Heat. The first 2 at home. Just not really respecting their opponent. Again, the energy was out there. They were turning the ball over. Defensively, they weren't really a great of a team as we thought they were. and they go down 3-0, but then they fight back. They win 3 in a row. Become the 4th team ever to force a Game 7 after being down 3-0. Jason Tatum plays amazing. Jalen Brown hit some shots. Guys like Derek White had a big tip in. Marcus Smart was hitting shots. They come all the way back to force a Game 7 at home, and it looked like they're going to make history, but then they come out of Game 7 flat. Again, we had the Jason Tatum ankle roll on the first play that really kind of set the tone kind of for the Celtics in this game. But Celtics come out flat, missing threes, turnovers, and they ultimately get blown out at home in a Game 7. And now they're home, not making the finals again. And a lot of things with the Celtics team this offseason that are going to be talked about all over the place. That was a little recap. Just want to get into the individual players now, starting with Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum had a MVP-like season. He averaged 30 points per game with 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Shot 46% from the field, 35% from 3, 85% from the free throw line. Made the All-NBA first team, won All-Star MVP. He was great. In the regular season, he was great. The playoffs, he had great moments, but he also had some inconsistent moments. He had some times where he was missing shots, had some times where he was turning the ball over. Had some rough shooting games, but he also has some great shooting games. So it's I feel like the discourse on Jason Tatum goes kind of, like, it changes every week or every other day, honestly. Like, some people, Jason Tatum has a great game. It's like, Jason Tatum, this dude's only 25 and he's making all these great plays, and he has a bad game. And it's like, do we really think Jason Tatum's the number one on a championship? It's very, like, on and off. Is he a number one on a championship team? We don't know that yet. I mean, he has made the conference finals dang near every year of his career, and he's made an NBA finals as well. So I'm assuming yes. We don't know that for sure yet, though. But I mean, Jason Tatum is a phenomenal player. He's one of the best players in the league, obviously. He's got all the talent in the world. Just has to be more consistent, honestly. Like, consistency is a big thing, especially in the playoffs. If you come out and perform on a similar pace every night, and Jason Tatum can perform like Jason Tatum every night, the Celtics team probably will be in the finals right now. But fortunately, that didn't happen. But Jason Tatum just needs to be more consistent. He might be up for some more money in a few years, but Jason Tatum is the guy in Boston. Jason Tatum is staying there. He's the glue guy in Boston for right now. But the big conversation around the Celtics team is about Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown this season averaged 26 points per game, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. He shot 49% of the field, 33% from 3. Made the All-Star team, made All-NBA, and a lot of talk throughout the entire season, though, even before the playoffs, about because Jaylen Brown only has 1 year left on his contract after this season, and then he's up for some big money. Really, really big money. Especially after making All-NBA. He's up for big money. And a lot of talk about if Boston can win a championship and be successful with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum together on the team. Jaylen Brown had a phenomenal year. I mean, look at the numbers. He looks like a first. These numbers look like first option numbers, while he was a second option. I mean, that's an insane second option to have, especially him being only 26 years old. That's crazy. But we go to the playoffs, and he had a good first round against Atlanta. Second round was solid. He had some good moments. He had some okay-ish moments. But the conference finals was not pleasant to him, to Jaylen Brown. Looking at his playoffs this year by each series, the first round against Atlanta, he averaged 26, 5, and 3. Shot 54% from the field, 51% from 3. Just an amazing series. Second round against Philly, he averaged 23, 5, and 3. Shot 54% of the field, 43% from 3. Still some very solid numbers. The scoring went down, but the shooting was still kind of there. We get to the conference finals, and his scoring drops to 19 points per game. His rebounding actually goes up to 6.1. His assists 3.4. But the shooting numbers, he shot 40. He went from shooting 54% from the field in the first 2 series to 41% against Miami. 3-point shooting went from 51% in the first round to 43% the second round. In the conference finals, he shot 16% from 3. Dropped a whole lot. Turnovers are a big thing as well. Looking at the assist to turnover ratio, when not good throughout the entirety of the playoffs. In the first round, he had 18 assists to 21 turnovers. Second round, he had 26 assists to 20 turnovers. And in the conference finals, he had 24 assists and 25 turnovers. So yeah, he did not have a great conference finals, and everyone remembers his last game, Game 7, was not great either. In Game 7, he finished shooting 8 for 23 from the field, 1 for 9 from three. He had 8 turnovers. And of course the kind of discourse about his ball handling ability came back after last year was a big topic. This year again, big topic for him. And after losing this Game 7, now it's a thing of should the Celtics keep Jaylen Brown and keep this Tatum and Brown thing together, and should they pay Jaylen Brown this money? He's up for a 5-year, $295 million deal in 2 years, and Jason Tatum is going to get paid a lot of money as well. So basically, do you want to invest near $600 million in the two J's if they can't bring you a championship? I mean, conference finals appearances are awesome as well, but the end goal really is about no one cares if you make 9 conference finals appearances if you don't have a championship. The 9 conference finals appearances obviously are amazing, obviously, but you don't get anything from being in the conference finals. Like there's only so much conference finals you can get to. It's like, all right, we got to make it. They made it to the finals once, and they have not won a championship. And again, it's only been 4 or 5 years of this. So I mean, obviously, they still have some time. I mean, the guys both aren't even close to 30 years old yet, so they still obviously have a lot of time to win that championship. But we know, for context of this, is also that they're in Boston. And Boston is about rings. Boston hasn't won a championship in 15 years. And that's unlike the Celtics. Celtics are a team that has a lot. They're tied with the Lakers for the most rings. They're one of the most historic franchises in sports in general history. And the Boston Celtics don't want to settle with, hey, we made 5 conference finals appearances. Like, okay, cool. You know how many conference finals appearances the Celtics have made in their history? Like, that's not anything new. Championships are what they're striving for. And because Boston has been so competitive throughout the past, 5-6 years, and always been around this point, they're getting hungry for a ring. And they know they have the talent to win a championship. And now, so at this point, they're kind of stuck in a little bit of maybe a crossroads of like, all right, do we keep the young guys together and keep this around? Because we know these two young guys together can make far into the playoffs. We don't know if they can win a ring yet. So the Celtics are kind of deciding, should we keep this together or should we trade Jaylen Brown to potentially get something more? Maybe a star, maybe some cap space to get a star so that we can maybe get to the next level. And I think that a Jaylen Brown trade isn't easy, but I think they can find something great with a Jaylen Brown trade. I mean, Jaylen Brown obviously has a lot of value. Obviously, he's one of the better two-way players in the league. He's a wing that could score, defend at a very, very high level. And he's even talked about it. He's even kind of opened up the doors himself a little bit, talking about, Boston and how maybe, he's not saying he's not loyal to Boston, obviously, but it's like, if they basically saying if they trade me, hey, it's whatever, I don't really care, So yeah, just some comments like that have been made the past year or two that have really started getting people wondering, like, does he really actually want to be in Boston? Does he want to be on another team and have his own team? Like, what is going on? And I think for me, on the Jaylen Brown thing is like, I don't want the Celtics to force it. Or I don't want the Celtics to do something just because they feel like they have to do something. Like, if you could trade Jaylen Brown and get a star like a Damian Lillard type guy back, then yeah, that'll take your team to the next level. Do it. But don't just trade Jaylen Brown just to trade Jaylen Brown, just to try to get something new in the door. Like, Jaylen Brown's still a fantastic player. He's still, as your number 2, averaging 26, 7, and 3. Like, that's insane number 2 numbers. Even some guys number 1s. Some teams number 1s can't even put up those numbers. So don't trade Jaylen Brown just to get rid of him and try to get something new in. trade Jalen Brown for only trade Jalen Brown if you're taking him to the next level. You know, and about the money, I mean, obviously, it's a whole lot of money. But if you really believe in these guys and really think these guys can make it to the next level, because we've seen it's not like these two have been missing the playoffs or losing in the first round. Like these two have made the conference finals or second round dang near every year they've been together. You know, and of course that's also with Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie Irving and them as well. But even on their own, the past few years, like they've made it far to the playoffs. They made it to the finals last year, and they made the conference finals again this year. And then the year before that, what is it, 2021? 2021 was the bad year actually, when they made so many playoffs. They lost in the first round, but that's also because Jalen Brown was injured, and they had a pretty bad team that year. The year before that, in the bubble, they made it to the conference finals. Oh no, they made it to the. Did they make it to the? Yeah, they made it to the conference finals. Miami and Boston. Yeah. These two guys together is showing you they could take you far into the playoffs. It's just they can't win a championship. They haven't done that yet. But that's on those two. But I really like the surrounding pieces on this roster as well. I mean, Marcus Smart, obviously the heart and soul of this team. Al Horford's a perfect guy to have with this team. Love what he's been doing. Derek White came out this year and was amazing in the playoffs, especially. They got to keep him around. Malcolm Brogdon won the sixth man. They got him for nothing, but it's very tough because he did get injured in the playoffs, so he couldn't really play to his full maximum level. Big conversation on Grant Williams. He's going to be a restricted free agent. He wants money. So kind of a talk if the Celtics want to pay him or if he's going to go to another team. If another team maybe wants to offer him a big contract in Boston's like, you know what? We don't even need Grant. We can go. And then the big conversation is also about Joe Mazzulla as well. But the conversation has been very, not, I feel like, jumping the gun. Joe Mazzulla is 34 years old. He didn't even know he was going to be the head coach until maybe a month before the season started. And he has no experience, and he took this team all the way to the conference finals game 7. Of course, Boston wants to win a championship. That's their ultimate aspiration. That was their aspiration going into the season. But, you can't jump the gun and fire the coach, the 34-year-old coach that you gave a contract extension to that has no, experience. And you knew he had no experience. You know he was 34 years old. And you just threw him into the coaching role, and he did very good. He got to the conference finals in Game 7. I don't know how many coaches would do that. Now, of course, he inherited an amazing team, obviously. But it's they could have lost in the second round. They were down 3-2 on the road, and they could have just sat down. But they won Game 6, came out, blew them out in Game 7, and made it to the conference finals. They were down 3-0, could have just sat down, got swept, or lost in 5. They won 3 games in a row and forced the Game 7 at home, but they lost in that game. Those are a few scenarios where it's they could have just sat down, but they kept fighting, and that's also with some help from Joe Mazzulla. So I think he'd be fine. They said they want to bring in some veteran assistants to come in and help Joe Mazzulla out, especially because there's a report earlier today that Celtics might lose a lot of their assistant coaches to Ime Udoka, who's in Houston now, and they might want to go team up with Udoka. So that will leave the door open for some veterans to come in and help the Celtics, which I think is great. That's a great thing for the Celtics to do. They see Joe Mazzulla is young, he has no experience, so let's bring in some veteran guys that have been around the league to kind of help him out. That's the right thing to do if you're Boston. So yeah, people are being way too hard on Joe Mazzulla for some reason. I don't know why. I think he could be a good, fine coach. Of course, he needs experience. He needs to tweak some things, but I think he'll be fine. Especially with how young he is. I think he can learn and adapt well. But now it's kind of where does the Celtic team go after this? This was probably the best Celtic team that they've had in this kind of era after Kyrie Irving and them. This Celtics team was constructed well. It was one of the better regular season teams. It had the best pass, especially Milwaukee, out of the picture, and then they beat up Philly. It's they have, well, not beat up Philly, but they beat Philly. Those are their two biggest kind of targets in the mix, and now they're both gone. This was the year. Everyone felt like this was the year for Boston to win the championship, but they lose in the conference finals to a 18 Miami team. A shout out to the Miami Heat. They played amazing. This run has been insane. But now it's what do we do next? Do we bring the same team back? Do we try to make a move? Obviously, you try to get better. Not saying you got to break the team up. But if you can go get some more solid role players, potentially I would maybe some more wing players because I feel like Boston doesn't really have backup wings. Daniel Gallinari was going to be the backup wing, but of course he didn't play this year. They tried Sam Hauser, but Sam Hauser really is only shooting threes out there. They don't really have any backup wings. Grant Williams is kind of like he's more of a bigger body wing. I would like more of an athletic wing off the bench for Boston that can be two-way. I would like that. Maybe trying to get more point guard play, but of course maybe Malcolm Brogdon was the guy and Derek White, but obviously Malcolm Brogdon couldn't really play that much of the conference finals. So hopefully he can be healthy for next season. But yeah, I think this Boston team is kind of stuck in this kind of realm right now. I don't know if they can get much better unless you trade Jaylen Brown for another superstar level player, a guy like a Damian Lillard. That's the only guy that I feel like really could be available. Because I mean, Pascal Siakam, I don't think I'd rather just keep Jaylen Brown. And I don't think Pascal is changing anything in Boston. So I think maybe only superstar level players. Don't trade Jaylen Brown just to trade him. Trade him for something actually valuable. And if it does come down to a situation where you have to pay him, um, I think Boston might just have to do it because there's not that many players that you're finding better than Jaylen Brown for less amount of money or for in a trade or anything like that. So I think if it comes down and Jaylen Brown's still on the team next year and wants his money, I think if I'm Boston, I might have to just give it to him. You know, I know they want to win rings and they don't know if they can. This team can win a ring, but I think they can. I honestly think they can. If they can keep this team together, just with more experience, coaching wise, I think could really help. Of course, maybe one or two more acquisitions off the bench could really help. But I think a lot of people might be panicking a little bit about Boston. And the only thing I hope is that Boston doesn't panic himself and try to make some big crazy moves happen. Like, I would not panic if I'm Boston. This team is probably going to stay around. If you keep Jaylen Brown around, this team is probably going to stick around for another year or two. And you have another year or two to win a championship. And you still have the kind of main ingredients to win a championship. This team definitely can win one. It's just about all the little things that around the roster and around coaching and on the court and stuff like that they can be tweaked and they can win one. So I wouldn't panic about Boston. Yeah, no, I would not panic about Boston. I'll be fine if I'm Boston. But again, if there's a superstar out there for Jaylen Brown, I think you can make that. I think you make that trade. But if not, keep it, stay packed, and come out next year and try to win a ring. And try to fix some things. Yeah, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you like the content around here, consider subscribing, turn notifications, all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. Be upset a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.